we'll go off of that then, and we'll come back here with something. Also, if, like I said, if everybody gives me their hazard scores now, or in the near future, if you forgot yours,
Get those hazard scores in.
get them to me, or if you're still missing your critical facilities inventory, or your planning, if you've had any planning mechanisms or policies.
And what are PARs?
The personnel activity reports.
Ah, yes.
So we'll get to those. Says, let me hand those out. Remember, if you're an elected official, you do not fill one of these out. Your time is automatically counted, or you're not allowed to use your stipend at this meeting. So just go ahead and fill those out, and if you have your ones from last meeting, please give them to me, because your supervisor needs to sign them. So if you don't have them with you, make sure you can scan them and email them to me, or you can fax them, or mail them if you'd like as well.
How often do you want them? If the city clerk's keeping track of when she's filling them out?
Scott County draws a recorder,
Yeah.
so you'll probably need to turn it in.
Once a month is good. At least once every 3 months. Anything else?
Hopefully next time we'll be going into a little bit more detail on the hazard scores.
You wrapping up here?
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate you indulging these questions, because I'm new to this
Oh, not a
process.
problem.
And I appreciate it.
Happy
And
to
I do want to applaud the staff for making your minutes available on the county's website. There are other plans in place that aren't making the minutes and their attendees public. You guys are, so I do appreciate that very much. I'm just trying to get my hands around the end game here. I'm trying to fast forward to in a perfect world, if you went through all these meetings, get everything done the way you wanted to do, what would happen? I'm hearing that the end game is the county would get funding from FEMA to tear down some buildings or houses that are in the floodplain. That's like a simple sign and look at it, right? That's one of the things that FEMA's been known for in the
Your
past.
end product from this process is
Yeah.
a plan, basically.
But the plan,
Wish list.
based on what Mr. Huey has stated, is so that we may be eligible for state and federal funding.
Exactly.
It's earmarked as mitigation funding, correct? Okay.
Right.
So can you give us an example of what another piece of mitigation funding might go towards?
Sure.
I'm just trying to understand that.
Tornado shelters.
Okay.
Those are mitigation fundings.
So like mobile home parks that don't have a safe, hardened place for folks to go to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes they put them into schools or libraries.
Sure.
You can also do levee improvements or dam improvements with those normally. It's not just tearing down buildings in the floodplain. If they're commercial, they can be flood-proofed, or if it's residential, it can be elevated above the floodplain. So you're not necessarily removing, and it's all voluntary on those instances of residential and businesses. The only thing we're not funding right now is power generators and tornado sirens. So they'll look at anything.
And Ross might be able to answer this question better than you folks can, but it also might qualify us for funding for emergency management, training, and things such as that, although I think there's already funding.
I don't know for sure on that one.
Okay.
There's a specific funding source related to just
But
the
the
repetitive
focus
loss.
mostly is related to flooding, and this really comes out of the 2008 floods.
Yeah, there's two of the 4 programs that they have at FEMA for mitigation are flood related.
So do you have a targeted list of the grants you're going to go after once this plan is established?
That's what we're kind of working towards right now, and the cities would be the ones that would go after them, and there is a local match involved, so there is an extreme possibility that some of this won't ever come to fruition, based on the fact that some of the communities don't have the assets to do so. But if they need to in an emergency, they can.
And there's some like 40 different things you're scoring. All those go into the plan, regardless whether you rank them high or not rank them.
Right.
You'll have a plan for all 40 of those fields.
Yeah, I mean.
But we're gonna focus on the 10 top.
Gotcha,
Right.
but they'll still go to Iowa, they'll still go to FEMA
Right,
in the
yes,
plan.
yes.
Yeah.
And is it a full funding, or is there 25% that has to be matched
it's-
from the
It's a
community?
25% match.
75.
So with the 75 we get from FEMA, we've got to match from 25, and where does
If-
that come from?
Correct.
Well, let me just stress that this is, individuals aren't counted as this. This is just the local government's grants. Individuals will still get their FEMA funding in a case of emergency. So you're not affected. The fact that there's not a hazard mitigation plan, you're not personally affected. So if FEMA comes to your house after your house flooded in 2008 and said, we're giving you this amount of money for the structure damage on your house, that's not a component of this. You still would get your money.
But is it in the county budget? Where, as a taxpayer, where do I pay my 25%?
Well, it would depend on the community.
The state gets reimbursed some too.
The state
On
actually,
presidential declaration.
if there's a presidential declaration, a certain amount of money, they figure out how much of that personal money each person gets, and a percentage of that goes to the state for grant implementation. And so that's why the grants are pretty open right now on what they can do, because they have more money than they've ever had before in order to do mitigation projects.
And we oftentimes get passed through for those grants too. I'm thinking of, what was that one after the 2000?
The Jump Start,
Jumpstart.
yeah.
Where folks
That's
qualified for funding, while the FEMA wasn't just gonna give it directly to the homeowner, they needed some check and balance on it. And so the applicants voted by state submitted it, the county was paid the money, we reviewed it, and we paid it to the homeowners, but there wasn't any county match, and there wasn't any homeowners match.
Yeah,
It
there's
was
not
just a
always-
pass-through grant.
There'll be occasions when you could actually match it with other federal funds. That happened with the 2008 funds, Muscatine County, I think Davenport too.
And for this planning grant, it's federal, the state's paying is part of the match, and then the county's responsible for the rest.
And the local match for this grant is actually volunteer for these people. So each community, if they're being compensated by salary right now, that's that community's contribution. So it's,
I think the concern from the taxpayers comes in that if you get the plan in place and you check the box with the state and the feds that say, okay, now you're eligible for some of this funding, then these entities go for that additional funding that's been dangled out there. Next thing you know, we've got to have a surcharge on this or additional tax on that to pay for this.
I understand.
And that's where the concern comes in. And that's why I'm asking the kind of questions I'm asking, because when I look down at this stuff, I see like categories of mitigation action, this chart right here. When I look at this, I read these and I think, well, aren't our public servants already doing all this already?
and then we do take
Aren't
that
we
into
already
account.
paying for these services?
That's what we do take that into account. That part of the plan will address actions that are already being taken by communities. And then that gets already put in plan as something that they're already doing. It's a wish list, right? They're under no means financially obligated to carry them out.
And do you anticipate that this effort turning into something that would possibly turn into like a new multi-jurisdictional agreement, like either a, what do they call it, a 26C or a 28E? Could this turn into that?
The plan itself, no. And actually, I think the ones that are already in existence are pretty much the main ones that are needed. I mean, it's equipment share for hazard mitigation, or for hazardous materials, fire, police, those kind of things are already in place.
So we don't anticipate like a hazard mitigation office being born out of this. It's going to require a whole staff
No,
and a
this
whole
plan-
taxing authority, like SEC 911 is, right?
Yeah. So we throw around these great ideas. We take them, and there's this process that's, the acronym is called stapling. And it's an evaluation process to see if they actually are feasible. If they're not financially feasible,